Donald Trump has been in office for a week now. Here's a bunch of stuff he has done. Border security. Declared a national emergency at the U.S. Mexico border for troop deployment and barrier increase. This move aims to enhance border security by allowing for rapid construction of physical barriers and the deployment of additional military personnel. Haters argue that this might strain military resources and could lead to human rights concerns at the border. Immigration. Suspended the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program and initiated a review. This policy shift effectively halts new refugees entering into the United States while a comprehensive review of the vetting process is conducted, reflecting Trump's campaign promise to tighten immigration controls. It has raised concerns amongst human rights organizations about the welfare of refugees globally. Birthright citizenship. Attempted to end birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants, sparking legal challenges. This executive order challenges the long-standing interpretation of the 14th Amendment's Citizenship Clause, aiming to restrict citizenship for children born to non-citizen parents. Low-T legal experts argue that such a change would require a constitutional amendment, leading to immediate legal battles. January 6 pardons. Pardon approximately 1,500 individuals involved in the January 6, 2021 Capitol insurrection. This mass pardon reflects Trump's stance on the events of January 6, potentially influencing how history views the incident. Haters see this as undermining the judicial process for those involved in the insurrection. WHO and Paris Agreement. Withdrew from the World Health Organization and the Paris Climate Agreement. Trump's decision to exit the WHO was based on accusations of mismanagement. Withdrawing from the Paris Agreement signified a shift back to deregulation of environmental policies. Both moves have drawn international criticism for potentially weakening global health and climate change efforts, while drawing national admiration from folks who are tired of these unelected organizations. Policy reversals. Reversed numerous Biden-era executive actions related to racial equality, climate, migration, and gender policy. This includes undoing initiatives aimed at addressing systemic racism, reducing carbon emissions, and supporting migrants and transgender rights. The reversals signal a clear ideological shift back to conservative and common sense policy stances. DEI offices. Ended diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility initiatives in federal government. This decision affects federal hiring practices and workplace culture, aiming to focus on merit-based systems. Haters argue it could lead to less diversity and inclusion in government roles, potentially impacting policy and service delivery. People with real jobs celebrate that meritocracy and competency is now back on the menu. Energy emergency. Declared a national energy emergency to expedite drilling and energy deregulation. This declaration bypasses certain environmental regulations to boost domestic oil and gas production with the aim of achieving energy independence. Environmentalists and other low-T individuals are concerned about the long-term ecological impact of such rapid deregulation. Federal hiring. Changed federal hiring practices, reclassifying some workers as political hires. This allows for more direct control over federal staff by political appointees, potentially affecting the neutrality and stability of government operations. This could lead to a more politically aligned bureaucracy. Gender recognition. Recognize only two genders, male and female, on official documents. This policy change affects federal recognition of gender identity, potentially impacting legal documents and services for non-binary and transgender individuals. It's criticized for ignoring the spectrum of gender identity recognized by medical and psychological communities. It is praised for bringing common sense back into society and mental issues back into asylums. TikTok policy. Delayed enforcement of a federal TikTok ban, giving ByteDance time to negotiate or face prohibition. This delay allows ByteDance to potentially sell or restructure TikTok's U.S. operations, addressing national security concerns over data. This keeps the app accessible in the meantime, affecting millions of users and content creators. Digital assets. Signed an executive order promoting U.S. leadership in blockchain and digital assets. The order establishes a framework for digital currencies and technologies, aiming to keep the U.S. at the forefront of financial innovation. This could lead to increased investor confidence in crypto markets in the U.S. CBDC prohibition. Prohibited actions towards issuing central bank digital currencies in the United States. Trump's administration views CBDCs as a potential threat to privacy and financial freedom, preferring decentralized cryptocurrencies. This stance could influence future discussions on digital currency in the US. Overall, a very, very big win for freedom. Crypto regulation. Formed a working group to establish a regulatory framework for digital assets. This group will work towards clearer rules for crypto markets, aiming to balance innovation with consumer protection. This group is also tasked with figuring out the feasibility of creating a national crypto reserve, also ensuring banking services for crypto companies, potentially fostering growth in the sector. This reverses previous restrictions that made it difficult for crypto businesses to maintain banking relationship. It's also part of a broader policy to integrate crypto into traditional finance, enabling crypto holdings for financial institutions, a very pro-crypto move. Foreign aid. Initiated a review of foreign aid programs to align with U.S. policy. This reassessment might lead to significant changes in how the U.S. supports or influences other countries, potentially reducing aid to nations not aligned with current U.S. geopolitical goals. It reflects a shift towards more transactional international relations. Tariffs. Announced potential new tariffs for Canada and Mexico, delayed until February 1. These tariffs could affect trade relations and increase costs for consumers, though the delay suggests room for negotiation or reconsideration. It's a strategic move in trade policy, potentially leveraging economic pressure in order to gain more benefits for the United States. Alaska development. Lifted restrictions on drilling and mining in Alaska. This policy opens up previously protected natural areas for resource extraction, aiming to boost domestic energy production. Environmentalists warn of the irreversible damage to unique ecosystems. Offshore drilling. Overturned bans on deep offshore drilling. This policy aims at expanding oil and gas exploration, potentially increasing U.S. energy reserves. However, it also raises concerns about oil spills and marine life impacts. Government efficiency. Created the U.S. Department of Government Efficiency Service for government efficiency. This rebranding of the U.S. Digital Service focuses on reducing government size and cost, with an emphasis on technology to streamline operations. Also implemented a hiring freeze on federal civilian positions. Gender policies in the military. Undid transgender military service policies and ceased funding for gender transition care. These changes reflect a conservative approach to gender identity in military and healthcare policy, potentially affecting transgender service members' rights and well-being. There is significant pushback from advocacy groups who have no military or combat experience, but plenty of screaming and victim experience. Meanwhile, the incoming Secretary of Defense is focused on bringing lethality back to the armed forces. Stargate Initiative announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure aimed at creating jobs and leading in AI technology. This partnership between tech giants and the government is intended to propel the U.S. into a leading position in AI development, with significant job creation potential. The investment comes from SoftBank, a prominent Japanese company known for making big bets in the technology sector. a true signal of confidence in the USA now that level headedness has returned to the government.